presentation. Ultimately, this is what our guys do, all right? So this is, the fights are usually on a Saturday night, official weigh-ins are on a Friday, guys check in on a Tuesday to the fight hotel, all right? Now, ultimately, what they're trying to do is work down to their required weight class. What you can see, this is our respective weight classes. The heavyweights are not on there because they kind of don't need to cut weight, but our guys cut weight. It happens through caloric restriction, and it also happens through a process called water loading. So if they water load, they can essentially trick their brain when they go cold turkey and stop water loading, they can pee all that out, and it means that they can acutely dehydrate to get down to a weight class, and then they can acutely rehydrate and rebound back to their normal weight. What you can see is that these are the actual weights that people are reporting at. So someone that's going to weigh in on a Friday, you can see the female's kind of about 8%, 8 to 10% above their required weight class, kind of sits across the board. But the reason why I show you this, you can see up here, this is someone reporting on a Tuesday, 20% body weight above their weight class, all right? They're going to get rid of that in 4 days, yeah? And then they're going to rebound, they're going to weigh in, and they're going to rebound. Now, we suggest that you come in 8% above your weight class on a Tuesday. But you can see the magnitude, even 145, this is a 23% weight loss. 23% in 4 days. All right, you speak to a nutritionist, they freak out when they hear this type of stuff. All right? No disrespect to any nutritionists in the room. Then this is Saturday night the Saturday night weigh-ins. And again, we now suggest that this should be no more than 10% to keep parity in the fight. But as many of you that know combat sports or follow the UFC or follow the media, I'm sure you're aware that one of the challenges with that sport is the magnitude of what people are trying to do to cut weight. So this is, again, our rebound weights, and you can see how it's now, people are rebounding up to kind of 15, up to 20% above their actual required weight class. So this now presents an interesting paradox. Now, why do I tell you this? Well, ultimately, this is some of our omega wave data. So this is a fighter, this is a case study, this is a fighter that's had numerous fights, lots of caloric restriction, the cyclical caloric restriction that happens with fight camps. They had a fight, they took 3 weeks off, and then they returned to general training with ourselves. Now, what you can see is that as we start looking at the stress response from an omega wave perspective in terms of cardiovascular challenge, central nervous system challenge, that we get this massive stress response. What we're looking is for this kind of Goldilocks phenomenon between these two green lines. And you see, as soon as we get outside that green line, the stress response is now massive. The other thing that I'll say is that these bars should be really, really narrow. You want tight, narrow kind of responses. This big, large bar means that on a day-to-day basis, this athlete is excited, depressed, all this type of emotional drain that is draining their cardiovascular system, et cetera, et cetera. So what we had to do with this athlete is a metabolic reset, all right? We've got to take the time. This athlete has been 8 weeks of caloric restriction through poor management of their weight cut, and we can get them back into this kind of metabolic health, all right? Now, I say this because the foundation of any performance strategy has to be health and well-being, all right? It's a waste of time laying performance optimization on the top of a foundation that is sand if it's bad metabolism and poor health. It's just not going to happen, all right? The problem becomes with our sport is that then the fight actually gets drawn closer. This person says, hey, do you want to take a short notice fight? Someone's dropped out, someone's been injured. You can get a payday, all right? Next thing now they're going to accept that short notice fight. And we drop into this now caloric restriction again, and suddenly we're now starting to see this trend to stress response. Now, if you look at some of the physiology, so this is actually an ECG trace. Going from left to right at the front here, this is our QRS complex, so this is our heart rhythm. This is just a visual interpretation of it, and then the dates going backwards. But what you can see, just visually, in the R wave, that there's very little amplitude to it, okay? So the heart is working really fast and hard, but there's no ejection fraction, all right? There's no capacity to that heart rate. Just the metabolism, for want of a better word, is messed up, okay? There's also no T wave. All right, so the cardiovascular strain that this cyclical caloric restriction of fight camps places on our fighters really messes up their physiology. And we're talking about trying to optimize their performance on this foundation. It's not going to happen. But what you can see is that as we've put them through that metabolic reset, you can start seeing some of the amplitude in the R wave coming back into the heart. All right, and now we're seeing a lot of T waves. So it's possible to do this in a healthy fashion and really influence physiology, but it's got to be done in the right approach from a strategy perspective. This is also the same case study, but from a recovery perspective.